Welcome back to another episode of Meredith with a Y, and I'm here again with Alison, and we're going to switch things up today and talk about what, Alison?
We are going to talk about working outside the home as a woman and what it feels like to have that role reversal of being a mom and being out in the workforce.
And I want to touch on it from like both sides of it this week. Like, I really want to hit both sides because I'm now experiencing both sides of that coin. So stay with us and see where we go. Hello, everyone. This is Meredith with a Y, and I am your host, Meredith Willits. Today, we are going to go deep, changing lives, and I am giving you the keys to the castle. Okay, Allison. So usually you bring the topic, but this has been so palatable in my life because now, as we talked about in last week's episode, I have been away from the home on and off, mostly away from the home for the past 7, almost 8 weeks now. And so Jim is here, my husband, taking care of the kids, working his full-time job, getting them back and forth shuffled. And I am the one that is detached from the household duties, detached from the kids, detached from the grades. And I'm really understanding, and I know this is going to sound weird, but what it is to be that person that works outside of the home and almost visits their house on a daily basis. You know what I mean? And I got to tell you, it's super weird because my whole life I've been a stay at home mom.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting because I think that pulls together a lot of the things that we've been talking about for the past couple weeks, even like the masculine and feminine energy, the pause, being away and having the perspective, what it feels like to take on a different role. Like I think and not only that, I think this is such an important topic just in general with kind of like how the evolution of our society has been with women working outside of the home and what that looks like for them. So I love this topic and I think we need to dive into all aspects of it because it's like new territory.
It's very current. It's very of the times right now.
Yeah. Like how do we navigate this?
Yeah, and I think this actually might have to be a two-parter because I know we have a limited time to record today, and I think that we have to really do this topic justice by maybe even seeping into next episode. So, I just wanna give a little background. When I was 23, I got married, had my first child. My dad is very traditional in the sense of a good homemaker, a good housewife, like what that means. He's been married twice, so he has perspective. So when I got married the first time, my dad was very instrumental in the program of me as a housewife. He was like, when your husband comes through the door, he doesn't want to be bombarded with the overwhelm of your day. You don't just hand him the kid and say, I'm done, I'm stressed, here's the baby, I'm going to the mall, or whatever it is. And so that really hit me hard as a 23-year-old, first time mom, first time wife. I was like, okay, I got that. Like, a man doesn't want to come in the house and hear about all of your problems from the day. He wants to walk home and have a reprieve from stressors. And also, like, he doesn't want to be handed the baby the first minute he walks through the door in in a huff. It's one thing if he's, "Oh my god, where's the baby?" And you're like, "Oh, he's here waiting for you," or whatever. Like in the, "Here, I've been with him all day. Take it.
Now it's your job. Yeah.
Now it's your job. I'm off." And so I really took that to heart and I really comprehended it. Okay. And in my first marriage, I will say, for the whole totality of that, I handled the house. I handled the kids. I did the baths, I did the beds, I did the feedings. Cody was very sick when he was born, so I did the medications, I did the things. Don't get me wrong, Rich would spend the night at the hospital and do all that stuff when he was in the hospital. He's an excellent father. But I took on the onus of the household in whole, paying of the bills, and he went to work, made the money. When he was done with work, he was done, you know what I mean? He
It was
was
all
dad, he was husband, but it wasn't like, "And this happened, and your son did this, and your daughter did that." It was never like that. I took on that stress, and then I let him take on his stress of the job, and then we move forward from that place. I felt was my responsibility. In my second marriage, I realized that my husband doing things around the house, giving the kids a bath, putting the kids to bed was really important for him bonding to our house and bonding to our kids and family. So it was definitely more of the team work mentality. However, I still maintained that same, this is my shit to deal with, that's your shit to deal with, and don't hand the kids off at the end of a workday. Like I still maintained that I don't need to relive my whole day by way of complaining about it or otherwise. And also, he doesn't need to know everything I did all day. I'm not asking for advice or opinions or whatever. So I just maintained that my thing is my thing. And within the last, I would say, month, I'm really starting to feel an entirely new experience of, I know this is going to sound awful, but like being a man
Yeah.
and being excluded. And I think that this is huge because I don't believe many people have this opportunity to go from the house is my domain, the kids are primarily my domain. I am going to protect my spouse as much as possible from information and stressors to the best of my ability. And your job is to leave the house and make money. And this is a big thing that showed up in the last probably week. And you're an idiot and don't know shit about the house. That is what I'm experiencing now. Like, you don't know. You're not here. I have it covered. Don't worry about it. And I'm going to preface this by saying my husband doesn't have a mean bone in his body, and he would never want me to feel excluded, and he would never want me to feel like an outsider, and he would never want me to feel as if this house and this family isn't 100% mine. But when I was talking to my dad yesterday, he doesn't understand the weight of his words. He thinks he's like saving you from something, or I've got it covered, you don't need to worry about it. But when it comes to your family and your kids, those words, "I've got this," or demeaning my ability to now re-enter the home is really been the feelings of being excluded
Mm.
and not, this isn't my world. And this morning I was like, "Oh my God," like I now realize why men are like, "Fuck it, I'm not gonna do it because you think I'm an idiot anyways. So fuck you. I'm gonna go to work and you handle everything." Like I'm literally in this deep this week, Allison. It is super weird because I have never understood. Like I always thought that, I don't know, like I always just thought that this is the way it works, that like I decorate the house and I handle the kids and I know what's going on. Right now, I'm feeling both sides of this coin and it is super bizarre to step into. Super
Yeah.
bizarre.
And I think the interesting part of your journey is that you didn't have a lot of blurring. Like you went from one so fully to the other so fully, not only emotionally, but physically. Like you went out of your home physically and lived somewhere else and worked day in and day out physically in another location. So you were completely removed from that in all ways, which allowed you to experience it in such like in a way where it's like a dichotomy. It wasn't like, oh, I started working outside the home and I'm doing a part-time job, but then I'm still coming home at the end of the day and kind of picking up all the pieces and doing all the things. No, it was like cold turkey for you.
Cold turkey. Cold turkey, I basically handed my house and my kids over to my spouse
Are you
wholly.
back now?
I'm back for a couple days.
Okay. So you're
Today's
going back again.
Yeah, I'm going back again.
Okay.
So today's Brock's
Yeah.
birthday. Tomorrow, Emerson graduates. So I'm here for these things, maybe even Saturday. We'll see. But it is so strange to feel like tiptoeing in your own house, or like your opinion doesn't matter. And I'm saying these things for the people that are at home, male or female, who make their spouse, by way of thought, word, or deed, or energy, that the home is not also theirs, the kids, the responsibility of the family. I'll be honest with you, like when I feel excluded, when I hear like this morning, I'm like, do this, do that, because now I'm home, I'm doing laundry, I'm paying bills, like, I'm doing the dishes because now I'm back in the saddle and I have to do this side of the house stuff because 'cause I'm home now. And don't get me wrong, Jim's, like, doing the laundry, he's nailing it, okay? And that's what I need you to understand. He is doing all of the things and a full-time job and driving the kids, okay? So I'm not undermining anything that he's doing. What I'm saying is that when you're someone that is outside of the home, and the thing that's even showing up in my head is, like, divorced parents, where the kids might not live with that parent. I don't think I could possibly explain or express, because I'm like a divorced parent, in the physicality of I'm not living with my kids every day.
Yeah.
I am relying on communication from my husband, communication from the schools, apps that show me when their games are, or I can watch their games on an app. And I will tell you that if you are a divorced parent and co-parenting at all, like, the reeling in of that non-custodial parent, I can't even tell you how important it is to overly communicate. Like, literally makes me sick to my stomach right now. Like, it's making me physically sick to think about how awful that must feel, because I'm not even divorced, but I'm going through these weird emotions of being on the outside, and it's very hard to feel like, because I've been the integral parent, the every minute, every day, all day long parent for almost 27 years of my children, to literally wake up and transfer my life into a different realm and not be a part of that. Like, it's super, because even when I got a divorce in my first marriage, I was still the custodial parent. So I was the day to day. I've never, ever in my life for 27 years, it's almost 3 damn decades, not been the parent,
The person. Yeah.
the person. And now all of a sudden, for a few, almost 2 months now, I am not the parent. And it's alienating a bit. And it's like yesterday, and again, Jim would never say anything to be cruel ever. He's just informing me. But yesterday, Emerson had a dance, and it wasn't even like a dress up dance. It was shorts and a t-shirt dance for 8th grade graduation. And my goal was to leave in time, leave the island in time to be home to see her off to her dance, which was very anticlimactic. So yesterday we had all the guys there. We're tearing open floors. We're doing roofing. Today they're going to be doing that. Like, it's a big 3 days that I'm not going to be there and they're there. So God works in mysterious ways. That's probably a good thing. But I really wanted to stay because I know the longer I stay, usually the longer they stay. And so I was like really debating on whether or not I needed to be home for Emerson, because it's just like a t-shirt and shorts dance, right? Not like a dressy dress, nylons, and I need to do her hair dance. And Jim's, hey, like, she really kept saying stuff like, mom's coming home before the dance. And I'm like, I know, but I've got this guy here looking at the RV to buy, blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, I know. And I felt that squeeze that I know so many working people feel when they have a family, which is, I have this job to do that now I can't do because I have this other obligation. And so now I'm going to either fail this person or that person. But I'm not going to be successful in both places. And P.S., it's the truth, but I'm not going to lighten the truth by telling you, "Oh, it's okay. You can miss being here." Like, he told me the honest truth. She wants you here. She's looking forward to being here. She has been talking about it. The way I've always parented and wifed is, it'll be fine. She'll get over it. I'll be here. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. You can see her after the dance. That's how I would have handled it, because I would have wanted to save my spouse from the pain of some sort of failure or some sort of pain. But Jim was just being honest, and I appreciate him being honest, and it all worked out fine. But that squeeze of, I have been waiting for these projects to be getting done and need to be here, but I also need to be there, and you're going to know about it. You're going to feel that. and I felt like a failure. I'm like, I can't fucking be successful. I cannot fucking be successful and be fucking successful over here.
Yeah. I can't tell you how well I know that feeling to the point where you're telling that story and I'm like feeling like my stomach hurts so bad even just listening to you say that because I have struggled with the same thing for the entire lives that my children's entire lives, like since I have been a mother. I remember feeling because just a 2-second backstory on me. I've always worked full time since my kids were little. And when I say full time, I'm a business owner. I have a flexible schedule, but I'm working a lot typically. I've only recently started to slow down a little bit. And I remember having this thought and thinking back on it, I'm like, what were you thinking? But at the time, I remember having this image because I also grew up in a situation where dad worked, mom was home, very traditional. And I remember thinking to myself, because I wasn't a quote unquote like full time stay at home mom, I had this feeling like I wasn't a mother at all. Like I was not a mother because I was not staying home full time. And I look back on that now and I'm like, what were you crazy? Like, of course you are a mother, but because it didn't fit the box that we're all used to, or I shouldn't say that we're all used to, that society has
Traditionally, yeah.
kind of, yeah, been traditional around, there was this feeling of, oh, you're a failure in that because you're not doing it. And I remember someone saying to me, whenever I'm at work, I feel like I should be at home. And whenever I'm at home, I feel like I should be at work. And there's always this, it's being pulled in two different directions at one time. And this feeling of never being able to be successful at one thing or the other. At least this has been my experience because you have this family at home, which means everything to you. But then you also need to breadwin and you have this drive to be successful at whatever else you're doing outside of the home. And just the idea that we should be able to do both at 100%, I think is just the biggest fucking lie.
It's a total lie. Let me ask you this. Was any of that feelings of detachment or guilt or less than because of, "Oh, we went and did this today, dot, dot, without you, you weren't there." If someone would have just if your spouse would have been like, "Oh, yeah, we didn't do much today, just hung out," and then you can go, "Ugh, I didn't miss anything." Like, do you feel like if you would have been protected verbally and just been like, "No, look, you do, you be at work, you handle what and I've got this. There's nothing for you to do, and when you're done working, then" like, I feel that we don't recognize how much information about our kids and missing those experiences affects affects us.
Yeah. I would say that I probably in the moment would have felt less guilty, but I think that not I think that would have kept me more disconnected from my family because it would have made me just put my head back in the sand at work versus having that. Because I think guilt is healthy. There's a healthy part of guilt, right? Like shame is not shame versus guilt, right? I think that guilt is actually was my knowing that I wanted to be there. I really did. I really wanted to be with them. And not because I felt like I quote unquote had to, but because I wanted to and I felt like I couldn't. And I mean, that in itself is a whole another story and feelings of resentment are tough. But I think that whenever, and you and I have had this conversation, it's like whenever we're being saved from something, like it's just going to come around and come in the back door at some point anyway. So why save anyone from anything, really? I think that was something I needed to learn. And I've been learning how to be present with them and how to compartmentalize better and how to really say what really matters to me. And I think
Mhm.
without that guilt, I would have never had that nudge to keep channeling my life into a space where I could start to get to a place where I was actually not feeling so guilty all the time because I was able to get a little bit more balance. And I continue to play with those scales all the time. It's like
Mhm.
a seesaw, like you're constantly ebbing and flowing depending on the season. Like you always say, there's a time to rest, there's a time to go make the money, there's a time to do all the things. But yeah, it is painful. There's no denying that, but I don't think I would have wanted to be saved from it in hindsight.
Yeah, it's almost like, did I want Jim to protect me from saying, "Emerson really wants you here?" and keeping that from me and me being oblivious to her once, and then I don't show up because I don't think it's a big deal, and then maybe later she says, "I really wanted you here." And then I say to Jim, "Why didn't you tell me?" So it's like all these different things. How do we how do we balance this? Like, the only thing I'm seeing in my head while you're just talking is we have to be okay, maybe, with understanding that our kids are allowed to be parented by our partner or their other parent or their grandparents or a family friend or whatever it is, and that we don't have to envelop every minute of their day. I don't How do we do this? How do we do the things and miss dinner, miss a recital? Like, how do we and there's a lot of parents out there that are like, "I literally don't care. I don't need to be at the recitals. I don't need to be at the baseball games." It's just not on their radar. Whereas for our family, we try to make it to every baseball game, every softball game, every volleyball tournament, like all that stuff. But I'm finding this so fascinating because I never felt like an outsider in my own home, and to have this creep up and have it be so visceral is so shocking to me, and the only thing I can think that is the lesson in this is to really comprehend how a person feels who, because of a career or divorce or being in prison or being in the military, how horrible and how excluding, if that's even a word, it feels. It
Yeah.
it feels awful, awful, and I just took for granted being the custodial parent to my first 2 kids. I'm their mom, their dad works, blah, blah, blah. I don't think I truly recognized how damaging it is to the parent that is on the outside looking in.
Mhm.
How important it is for that parent, if possible, to be invited to every sporting event and every recital and all the birthday parties if it's possible and it's not a dangerous situation where the parent's gonna come in like a lunatic. But if at all possible, like, I can't even begin to tell you how important it is, not only for the bond of the child, but the bond for that parent to be bonded to their kids. Because I'm gonna tell you, it almost feels like I'm in this position right now, this mentality where I'm just like, they don't fuck it. Like, I said, "What about" I'm getting emails about the kids missing assignments, right? And so I asked Jim, I'm like, "Hey, what about these missing assignments? Are the kids doing their homework?" Yeah, we got this. We got this. There's nothing for you to do." And I'm like, "But I'm asking a question because I'm still their mom."
Yeah.
From his perspective, "Hey, there's nothing for you to worry about here.
Feel like I got this.
I
We're
have been like, I've got this. You don't need to worry about it." But as the person inquiring, "Hey, what's going on with my children, our children?" And to hear, "We got this. Don't worry about it." It's fuck you. I'm going to fucking worry about it. They're my kids. I'm allowed to ask a question. I'm not questioning your parenting. And I think this is a big piece. I'm not questioning your parenting. I'm questioning about my children that I want to know what's going on with them. But I
gonna be
think so, yeah, I think so often when any time one parent asks the other parent, XYZ, it's taken as defensive, just inherently, just in life, that you're being questioned about what's going on. You're being questioned about the kids. And it's no, I just have a question. And now, granted, some people are assholes, but I just think that this is so mind blowing to play both sides of this in such, like you said, such a short period of time that it's so like a punch in the face that I can see and feel and experience the nuance of this, that I think that it's definitely for a reason, which is
Yeah.
so funny because last week you're like, "What do you think the reason is for you being at the island?" And it's just every day, it's that could be a reason right there. I'm learning that. I'm seeing this. But I know as a working mom and an entrepreneur and trying to balance that in a household and a husband and 2 kids and your own self-care and self-exploration, I don't know what the answer is outside of siloing yourself in the present moment and recognizing that all your kids' experiences away from you and with you are equally important, and that in what I'm seeing in this moment is that they are the one to ensure your balance because without them, you wouldn't insist on it.
Yeah. I think that's so powerful and so true. And it's it lately too, I've been noticing because I've been really focused on choosing what's important to me and being more focused and present around my kids. And I've had more quiet space. And that's something we talked about recently too, to be introspective and just think about like, how do I want to show up? And what do I want to be there for? And what do I want to be present for? Because I'll tell you what, 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been present for 80% of the stuff I'm present for right now. And I can feel the connection and the disconnection that you're talking about. I've been really aware of it lately because I have been so present and I've been the one probably at least 3 days a week picking them up from school, if not 4 days a week, 5 days a week picking them up from school. And I've been the one at the sidelines and I've been the one to see them on the bus in the morning. And I've been the one that's there with them. And I can feel the connection and I can feel how and I'm not saying it's not good when they're with their father, but I can feel how much more security that brings my kids,
Mm.
that I am there. Like, I can just feel that their, like, softness and leaning into me versus when I'm in a season or when I was in, like, a long season of being away from them, the way that the disconnection was like, they went to dad for everything. They called for dad in the middle of the night. They wanted him when they were sick.
We call that stolen valor in our house.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause I like, it'll be like, "Dad," and I'm just like, "Why aren't they calling for me?" And he's just
Right.
and you take offense to it. I'm offended when they go to gym or work, like, for stuff in life, not just right now, and I'm like, "Stolen valor." Like, they should be coming to me.
Yeah.
And, like, when you were just talking about right there, that connection. And you wonder if the kids are just like they're programmed like, "This is who I go to for all the things." And so it's, "Oh, wait, I need to get back in that game of being a person that they go to for things."
Yeah.
Like, they
See,
clearly they go to gym for all the sports stuff, right? "I need a new glove, I need a new whatever the hell." But there's some things that you think they should go to me for this, and when they don't, you feel alienated. And then when you were just talking about like the disconnect, you have to ask yourself, guess what? They're protecting themselves from your alienation of them. So
yeah.
they're like, I need to pivot away from mom, who has alienated us by way of time and being available. And so I'm going to protect myself from mom or dad.
Yeah.
And then you feel hurt because they keep going to dad, and now you're protecting yourself from being hurt that they're not coming to you. So it's like something's gotta give here. We have to go, "All right, there's something happening. I need to not protect myself. I need to just dive in and reconnect and do as much as I can." It's crazy the way I'm seeing this right now. I don't know if
And
you
there's
can.
transition. Yeah, like, I love what you're saying because I think what I'm also trying to express is I can feel when the connection's there and when it's not, and I can feel almost like this ramp up period when the connection is, like, reestablished, and then I can sense too when it's being, like, fizzling out too, like, it is I don't wanna say you have to put the work in because that sounds like something you don't wanna do, but and I think this goes for all relationships. There's a trust that you have to build back up after periods of disconnection, and I would argue that's in a marriage or in a
Yeah.
friend or in, like, with children because it's just so interesting because kids are you can read your kids and you know them so well and you know their nuances and you can see what they do and they don't have as much of that sort of guarded hide ability to hide things. So it's so interesting to be able to see how that happens with your child. Not that and I think the other thing is like there's no right answer, right? If you don't want to be home, or you don't, you want, you're so thrown into your career, or you're so thrown into being a mom, like there's not a right place for you to be. I
Yeah.
think like what I keep wanting to ask you too is like where, after having kind of these both sides of this scenario and feeling, being at home and then being there, the connection and the disconnection, do you have any feelings of where it feels good for you and where you want to be? Like from your perspective, like what
Yeah.
feels like the right balance for you? Or is it
The
too
one
soon?
No, the one thing that I really enjoy is because I'm not at home being the drill sergeant, like, I felt myself enter drill sergeant mode this morning. "What are those clothes doing there? Go pick up this. Pick up your bathroom. Put those clothes away." Like, I felt myself definitely stepping back into that energy, and that's who I am in the house. I take care of the house. I make sure it's up to snuff. I make sure the clothes are downstairs for me to do laundry today. And so there's a bit of drill sergeantness that needs to go into that to make that happen because they aren't self-actualized in the cleaning department. So I kind of like being away because then they don't see me as, the hard-nosed mom. I'm the mom that doesn't do those things. I just show up and go to softball games, which how many people complain that dad's just the fun one and I'm the one that is the structure mom and the do your homework mom and the brush your teeth mom and dad gets to be the fun one. I'm the fun one. They come visit me at the island and we go on the boat. Or we like go out to dinner, or I go to their softball games and then I float back to quote work, AKA the island. Whereas Jim's the one, did you do your homework? Are you sitting there studying for your test? Did you brush your teeth? So he's the hard nose right now. I don't know if he's better at it or he's just a little bit more lenient because I like a clean house. I like a picked up house where I think he could be a little bit more in the gray area. So I'm now the fun one. I don't need to make sure that their teeth are brushed every morning and that they're getting to school on time and that their homework's done because I'm not physically here to make sure that's happening. So I'm just the person on the other end of the phone call or the other end of the Zoom, which I can compare that to like Cody and Skylar, my two that are out of the house and have their own lives as adults. And like Skylar will call me or FaceTime me and is very light because I'm not on her about anything. We are just in a very fun mom relationship. It's just mom who I talk to, mom who I want to hang out with, mom who's going to go to the concert with me or whatever, right? And so it's almost because you have the separation of, and this is so in line with having an affair, right? Yes, of course she's awesome. You don't have a mortgage and 4 kids with her. Yes, there's a spark there versus your wife or spouse. So it's like this very detached, whatever lives in your mind's eye energy of fun. You know what I mean? And I think that's what a lot of people complain about dad getting to be the fun one. I know that you have short, limited time, but I think that we need to absolutely dive into this again next week because I think this is a very powerful topic. And because of, like I said, it's so palatable right now. And I'm sure it will continue to be so over the next few weeks because I'm far from done at the island. I think that even more is going to come up, maybe even conversations between Jim and I know you have a ton to talk about. I think this is a great opportunity for us to really play with this and play with gender roles and all the things that it encompass this.
Yes, I love this topic. I'm so glad that you brought this up. And excuse me, this is something that I'm very specifically interested in and have explored for the past few years. And I definitely want to talk about it more. I have so much to say. I think it's something that's so needed too. Like I was saying before, I think we all in this space of working motherhood and gender roles and all the things like you said, like it's uncharted territory to a certain degree. And I think everybody's looking for a roadmap
Yeah.
or a role model or set, like it's okay, I can be anything, but now what the hell do I do with that?
Yeah.
Nobody knows what to do. So I think just in feeling through all of these things, yeah, there's so much to talk about. Yeah, stay tuned for part two. Let's keep this conversation going.
I love it so much. Thanks so much for talking through this with me and all of you guys out there for listening. If you have any comments or questions or experiences that you've had, go ahead and email me at meredithwillits@gmail.com. But we will be here again next week talking about gender roles and affairs and parenting and all those things that pop up in relationships. So we'll see you here next week. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. If you would like to connect on a more personal level, head over to meredithwillits.com or on Instagram at Meredith with a Y for behind-the-scene footage and outtakes. Please subscribe and come back each week for more Meredith with a Y. Thanks again for listening. Cheers.